Welcome, beautiful souls, to a journey of curiosity, courage, and creativity. Today, we're diving into Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, a book that isn't just about making art, writing a novel, or starting a business. It's about living a life that feels fully yours, fueled by ideas, passion, and the courage to say yes to yourself. Have you ever felt a spark of inspiration, a dream or idea you couldn't shake, but stopped yourself because of fear, self-doubt, or the voices of others? What if I told you that you don't need permission, you don't need to be perfect, and you don't need anyone to validate your dreams? That's what this book is about. Through these chapters, we'll explore how courage allows you to create even when fear shows up, how to recognize and embrace ideas as living, magical sparks, how persistence, trust, and playful divinity turn small steps into extraordinary creations, and how your creative life can be abundant, joyful, and deeply meaningful. This series isn't just for writers, artists, or entrepreneurs. It's for anyone who has ever felt a calling, a curiosity, or a spark and wondered if they were allowed to follow it. By the end of this journey, you'll see that your creativity is not a luxury. It's your birthright. So, take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's step into the magic that's already inside you. Chapter 1. Courage. Have you ever felt that spark of inspiration? Maybe you wanted to start painting again, launch a business, write a blog, or even just speak your mind more freely. But before you could act, fear whispered in your ear. What if you fail? What if people laugh? What if you're not good enough? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And that's exactly why this chapter is called Courage. Because the truth is, creativity and fear are inseparable companions. Elizabeth Gilbert opens this book by acknowledging something most of us secretly hope isn't true. Fear never really goes away. If you're waiting for the day you'll feel fearless before you begin your creative journey, you'll be waiting forever. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move ahead despite it. Think about it like this. Every time you want to do something new or creative, you're stepping into the unknown, and fear loves the unknown. Fear wants to keep you safe, locked into the familiar. But creativity demands that you explore, that you stretch yourself, that you risk looking foolish sometimes. Gilbert compares this to taking a road trip. Whenever she's about to embark on a creative project, fear shows up and insists on coming along. She doesn't kick fear out because fear is part of being human. Instead, she gives fear a seat in the car, but never the driver's seat. Fear can ride in the back, but it doesn't get to touch the steering wheel. That image is powerful, isn't it? Because many of us let fear not only ride in the car, but drive the whole journey. And then we wonder why our creativity stalls. Imagine you've always dreamed of starting a side business, maybe an Etsy shop selling handmade jewelry, or a YouTube channel where you share your story. The moment you even think about it, fear floods your mind. What if nobody buys? What if no one subscribes? That fear is valid. But here's the thing, you don't need permission from fear to start. You only need the courage to say, yes, I'm scared, but I'll do it anyway. And courage doesn't have to be huge. Sometimes it's tiny. It's posting your first blog post, even though you're trembling. It's signing up for that painting class, even if you feel rusty. Courage is often quiet, subtle, but deeply transformative. Practical takeaways. Fear will always show up when creativity is around. Accept that as normal, not as a stop sign. Courage isn't about erasing fear. It's about deciding fear won't make your choices for you. Treat fear like a passenger on the journey. Acknowledge it, but don't let it steer. Small acts of courage repeated consistently build the confidence to tackle bigger ones. So, Chapter 1 leaves us with this. If you want to live a creative life, courage is non-negotiable. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be brave enough to move forward while fear tags along. And in the next chapter, we'll discover something magical, the way creativity itself seems to have a life of its own, showing up in flashes of inspiration and ideas that beg to be born. How does that work? Is it really like magic? Stick with me, because Chapter 2 will make you see creativity in a way you've never imagined before. Chapter 2, Courage. Have you ever had a brilliant idea flash across your mind? A business you wanted to start, a painting you wanted to try, or maybe even a bold career shift, and then instantly felt that heavy knot in your stomach? Fear swoops in like an overprotective parent. What if you fail? What if people laugh? What if you're not good enough? We've all been there. Fear is sneaky. It convinces us that staying small is safer than reaching for something bigger. But here's the truth. Creativity and fear are inseparable twins. They always arrive together. The key is not to wait for fear to disappear. It's learning how to live and create with it. Elizabeth Gilbert tells us that fear is not the enemy of creativity. It's its constant companion. Anytime you step into new territory, fear wakes up. Why? Because fear's only job is to keep you safe, and anything new feels dangerous. The mistake so many of us make is thinking we need to eliminate fear before we can create. But if you wait for that, you'll wait your whole life. Fear never leaves. Instead, Gilbert suggests making space for it, but keeping it in its place. She even imagines giving fear a little speech before starting a creative journey. Fear, you're welcome to join us, but you don't get to make decisions. You don't get to drive. You don't even get to touch the radio. Isn't that powerful? Creativity needs courage, not because fear goes away, but because we choose to keep moving despite it. Think about it. How many times have women held themselves back because of fear? A woman has a business idea, but tells herself, "I'm not ready yet." A mother wants to return to painting, but fears people will say, "It's just a hobby." A young professional dreams of launching a podcast, but worries her voice isn't good enough. Fear is always there, whispering reasons why you shouldn't begin. But here's a twist. Courage doesn't mean grand, fearless leaps. Sometimes courage looks small. It's posting your first imperfect video, even if only 5 people watch. It's joining that pottery class after years of saying, "someday." It's pressing publish on the blog that no one may read yet. I'll share a quick story. One of my friends wanted to design jewelry, but for years she told herself, "I'm not trained enough. What if people criticize me?" Finally, she decided fear could come along for the ride, but not run the show. She launched a tiny collection online. Guess what? Not only did people love it, but she realized fear had exaggerated all the risks. The reward was on the other side of acting with fear. So how can you practice courage with creativity? Try these steps. Acknowledge fear out loud. Literally say, "I see you, fear." Naming it reduces its power. Give it boundaries. Tell yourself, fear can ride in the car, but it doesn't get to steer. Start ridiculously small. 1 brushstroke, 1 paragraph, 1 email. Fear hates progress. Reframe failure. Instead of asking, "What if it fails?" ask, "What if this teaches me something important?" Choose curiosity over perfection. Curiosity says, "Let's try and see," while fear says, "Don't even bother." Chapter 3, Permission. Have you ever felt that spark of creativity inside you? a story to write, a business to start, a song to sing, but stopped yourself because you thought, who am I to do this? Or do I even have the right to try? If that side's familiar, you're not alone. So many of us spend years waiting for someone else's approval, teachers, bosses, family, society. And the truth is, you don't need anyone's permission. In Chapter 3, Elizabeth Gilbert explains that permission is the biggest roadblock most people put in their own way. We grow up thinking that before we can create, someone must validate us. But creativity doesn't care about credentials or titles. The moment you wait for someone to say it's okay to create, your ideas can fade, slip away, or land in someone else's hands. Gilbert paints creativity as almost a living thing. Ideas travel and look for a willing partner. If you don't say yes, your idea may find someone else who will. Permission is not about asking. It's about claiming. It's giving yourself the right to show up, even if you're scared, uncertain, or inexperienced. Gilbert encourages us to be bold enough to embrace our own creativity and to stop waiting for a green light from the outside world. Imagine a woman who has always dreamed of launching a blog. She thinks, I need a degree in writing, a perfect camera, or thousands of followers first. In reality, all she needs is permission from herself. A painter waits until her children are grown to start her dream, believing she's too busy. When she finally tries, she discovers that starting late doesn't reduce the magic, it amplifies it. A musician hesitates because critics may judge. Gilbert would say, that's irrelevant. Creativity isn't about approval. It's about participation. Permission also applies to everyday creativity, not just career-level pursuits. Journaling, experimenting with a new recipe, even dancing in your living room. These are all acts that belong to you. You are allowed to create. Here's how you can practice giving yourself permission today. Say it out loud. I am allowed to create. Hearing it gives your mind a green light. Start small. One paragraph, one sketch, one idea. It doesn't need to be perfect. Reject comparison. Your creativity doesn't need to measure up to anyone else's. Claim your time. Even 5 minutes a day is enough to begin. Celebrate participation. Every step you take toward creating is proof that you're practicing permission. So remember, creativity doesn't ask for permission, and neither should you. The moment you stop waiting and start creating is the moment your ideas start showing up in the world. Next, we'll explore Chapter 4, Persistence, how to stay committed when the magic feels like hard work, and how consistent effort can transform small sparks of creativity into something extraordinary. Chapter 4, Persistence. Have you ever started a creative project full of excitement? Maybe a blog, a painting, or a business idea, and then felt yourself losing steam after a few days or weeks? You weren't lacking inspiration, but life got busy, doubts crept in, or results didn't show immediately. This is the exact moment where persistence steps in. Creativity isn't just about flashes of brilliance. It's about showing up repeatedly, even when it's hard. Elizabeth Gilbert in this chapter emphasizes that creativity is a marathon, not a sprint. Ideas may appear in bursts of inspiration, but turning them into something tangible requires commitment. Even when motivation wanes, persistence ensures that small daily actions accumulate into meaningful work. Persistence also protects your ideas. Gilbert reminds us that if you abandon a project too soon, someone else may pick it up and bring it to life. This isn't to scare you. It's to show that sticking with your work matters. By consistently giving attention and energy to your ideas, you build a relationship with them. They begin to trust you, and in turn, inspire you to go further. Persistence doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean grinding to exhaustion. It's about returning to your creative work regularly, even when progress is slow or your confidence dips. It's the simple act of showing up again and again that transforms raw ideas into completed projects. Imagine a woman writing her first novel. She writes 300 words one morning, edits 100 the next, and some days doesn't write at all. Over months, those small steps compound. Eventually, she has a full manuscript. That's persistence. Another example. A jewelry maker experiments with new designs daily. Some pieces fail, some succeed, but by consistently showing up in her studio, she eventually develops a signature collection that defines her brand. Persistence also applies to everyday creative courage. Posting a first reel online, even if it gets few views, or sharing a painting with friends, even if it feels imperfect, teaches you that showing up matters more than immediate recognition. Gilbert reminds us that creative ideas are alive. They respond to the energy and attention you give them. Persistence is your way of communicating, I'm serious, I'm committed, I'm here for you. Here's how to practice persistence today. Set tiny, consistent goals. Even 10 to 15 minutes daily counts. Create a routine. A regular creative schedule trains your mind to show up automatically. Celebrate small wins. Every step forward is proof you're moving toward your vision. Forgive lapses. Missing a day isn't failure, it's a chance to reset. Reconnect with curiosity. Let the work itself be your reward, not external validation. Persistence turns sparks of inspiration into tangible creations. It's the quiet, daily bravery of saying, I will keep going, even when fear, doubt, or life tries to pull you away. Next, in Chapter 5, Trust, we'll explore how to lean into the unknown, believing in your ideas, trusting your process, and allowing creativity to guide you in ways you might never anticipate. This chapter will challenge how you see both your work and your relationship with inspiration. Chapter 5. Trust. Have you ever hesitated to start a project, not because you lacked ideas or courage, but because you weren't sure if it would work out? Maybe you wondered, will anyone notice? Will this succeed? Am I wasting my time? This chapter, Trust, is all about believing in your creative ideas and your ability to bring them to life, even when the path ahead is unclear. Elizabeth Gilbert explains that creativity is a partnership between you and the universe. Ideas are alive. They appear when they want to, often when you least expect it, and they wait for someone willing to act. But they require trust. Trust that your curiosity is enough. Trust that your skills will grow as you create. Trust that the process itself has value, regardless of immediate results. Trust doesn't mean blind optimism. It doesn't mean ignoring reality or feedback. It means leaning into uncertainty with curiosity, knowing that every small action matters. Gilbert compares it to planting seeds. You water them, give them sunlight, but you don't control exactly when or how they grow. Your job is to nurture, not to dictate. She also reminds us that fear loves uncertainty. Doubt creeps in when we try to predict the outcome or demand guarantees. But trust encourages action even when the outcome is unknown. In fact, some of the most creative breakthroughs happen precisely because the creator trusted the process instead of demanding certainty. A woman dreams of publishing a memoir. She starts writing a few pages a day, uncertain whether it will ever be read. By trusting herself and showing up, those pages eventually become a book that touches hundreds of lives. A small business owner experiments with a new product line without knowing if it will sell. Each prototype teaches her something new, By trusting the process, she ends up creating a signature product that becomes her best seller. Even everyday creativity requires trust. Trying a new recipe, learning an instrument, or posting a personal story online. You won't know the result until you act, but trust encourages you to take the leap anyway. Elizabeth also emphasizes self-trust, your instincts, your curiosity, your voice. Trusting yourself allows creativity to flow naturally without being blocked by perfectionism or the need for validation. Here's how to practice trust in your creative life. Start small. Take one tiny action towards an idea, even if the outcome is uncertain. Observe, don't control. Focus on effort, not results. Honor curiosity. Let your interests guide you rather than your fear of failure. Record progress. Journaling or documenting your steps builds confidence over time. Lean into discomfort. Uncertainty is part of the creative process. Trust it will lead somewhere valuable. Trust is what allows your creative life to flourish. It transforms hesitation into action and turns curiosity into something tangible. Next, in Chapter 6, Divinity, we'll explore the spiritual side of creativity, the idea that inspiration itself is sacred, playful, and abundant. You'll discover how aligning with this energy can make your creative life feel effortless, joyful, and deeply meaningful. Chapter 6, Divinity. Have you ever felt a moment of pure inspiration when an idea just arrives out of nowhere and it feels bigger than yourself? Maybe a melody appears in your mind, a story takes shape in your imagination, or a new solution to a problem suddenly seems obvious. That's what Elizabeth Gilbert calls divinity in creativity, the magical, almost sacred energy that flows through us when we're open. Gilbert describes creativity as not just something we produce, it's something we participate in. Ideas, inspiration, and the creative spark are like living entities. They don't belong to us. They come to us, and we have the privilege of bringing them to life. She encourages us to approach creativity as a playful, abundant force, one that is generous, surprising, and often beyond our control. Divinity is about seeing creativity as sacred. When we honor the process rather than obsess over the outcome, we open ourselves to joy, flow, and unexpected brilliance. Gilbert reminds us that treating creativity as magical doesn't require religion. It just requires reverence, curiosity, and willingness. This chapter is also a reminder that we don't have to force inspiration or wait for permission. Divinity works when we show up consistently with openness and love for the process itself. It's a partnership. Creativity seeks us as much as we seek it. A woman working on a painting suddenly notices a pattern emerge that surprises even her. She didn't plan it. She just let her brush move freely, and the idea guided her hand. That's what divinity at work. An entrepreneur brainstorming a new service suddenly finds a unique solution during a walk. The insight came when she wasn't trying to think it just appeared. Even in everyday creativity, moments of divinity happen when we're present. A poem pops into your head. A recipe comes together without a recipe, or a conversation sparks a new perspective. Gilbert also notes that we often resist this magic because we're too attached to control or perfection. By releasing judgment and embracing playfulness, we allow divinity to flow more freely. Here's how to invite divinity into your creative life. Show up consistently. Even small daily acts make space for inspiration to arrive. Let go of control. Don't micromanage ideas. Let them unfold naturally. Stay curious and playful. Explore without pressure. Experimentation breeds magic. Honor the process. Focus on creating, not just the final product.
Notice and celebrate magic moments. Keep a journal or voice notes of insights as they appear. They're evidence of creative divinity at work. Divinity reminds us that creativity is abundant, playful, and sometimes divine. When we approach our work with reverence and openness, inspiration flows more freely than we ever imagined. And that concludes the main chapters of Big Magic. But as we wrap up, think about this. Your creative life doesn't need to wait. Courage, permission, persistence, trust, and divinity are already within you. The only step left is to show up, again and again, with curiosity and love for the process itself.
And just like that, we've traveled through Big Magic together, through courage, enchantment, permission, persistence, trust, and divinity. Each chapter offered a reminder that creativity isn't something reserved for the chosen few. It belongs to every single one of us. For women listening today, your ideas are real. Your creativity matters, and your voice deserves to be heard. Fear will always be there, doubt will whisper, and life will distract. But the chapters we explored show us that creativity thrives not in the absence of these challenges, but in how we navigate them. Remember, courage is showing up, even when fear is present. Enchantment reminds us that ideas have their own life, waiting for us to say yes. Permission is giving yourself the green light to create. Persistence is the steady effort that transforms ideas into reality. Trust is believing in the process, even when outcomes are uncertain. And divinity is honoring the magical, playful, and abundant energy that flows through every act of creation. Your creative life is waiting for you. It doesn't matter if you start small, messy, or imperfect. What matters is that you start. You are allowed to create. You are allowed to shine, and you are allowed to embrace the joy and wonder that comes from bringing your ideas into the world. So take a deep breath, make space for curiosity, and say yes to your creativity, your dreams, and the magic that's already inside you. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Big Magic. Keep creating, keep exploring, and keep believing that your ideas are worth bringing to life.